Hello and welcome. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the new critical adventure game currently being developed. This is Critical Revengeance. As mentioned, this is in development. So right now they are doing a public testing, and if you're watching this a little bit into the future, it might be closed if they're still doing development, or they might be fully released. But in the meantime, this does mean that there is to be expected bugs and issues, alongside data resets. So just a word of caution before we get too deep into it. Now, here is my experience with the current game and what I've progressed to. In the beginning, you're going to start out with a basic sword like all other critical adventure games. However, in this game, you're going to have to explore the world and interact with the different statues to swap out your class. This is a little bit problematic as some of the classes are going to be restricted in different areas. You're going to need some key items to get to these areas, but other than that, it's not too bad. You're going to have classes that are totally custom to this game, and you're going to have your basic classes like your sword, your magic staff, and your shield, for example. On the topic of classes, they're going to have levels. You, the player, are going to have levels on your own, which impact your skill points and how you distribute them, such as your health, mana, magic, and shield or defense. But your statue also is going to have a level system for passive perks. As you continue to do combat with enemies with a specific statue or weapon, you're going to gain some experience for it, and as you gain more and more, you'll unlock passives. Speaking about combat is actually one of the shining points in this game. This game does something different for its combat. Instead of the typical one orb, one class combat system, a lot of the different statues in this game have a variety of different orbs that affect the enemy in some unique way. Additionally, all of the classes will have a super attack. This is a little bar that charges up over time, and it does a special ability. There's just one last thing when it comes to combat, a natural dash ability. In a few of the different critical adventure games, there's no dashing ability, but in this game, inside of combat and outside of combat, you can dash. This actually makes the combat a little bit more interesting and fulfilling, as you're going to be able to dash out of a situation or dash to progress in your exploration. On the topic of exploration, materials. You're going to have to gather materials through the means of enemies, natural resources, and chests. All around the world, chests can spawn randomly. These chests can hold basic materials such as wood, or they can hold a huge variety of different items such as equipables, potions, and more. However, a large majority of your beginning is going to be gathering. You're going to need a pickaxe and an axe. You'll need a little bit of wood and some natural resources such as titanium, gold, and any other mineral. The last thing you're going to need are a few mob drops. All of the different enemies around the world have different drops that you can acquire after fighting them. However, we're going to go backwards a little bit because some of these mobs do drop key items. I mentioned this at the beginning, but to progress and get different statues for different classes, you're going to need a few key items. One of the key items are going to be keys. These keys unlock different areas. However, in the meantime, equipment should be your main focus. You, the player, have a huge amount of different equipment slots. You're going to have 6 passive slots, 3 active slots, and 2 tool slots. Your equipment is split into 2 sections. Actual equipment that goes onto your character, and then passive items such as weapons. However, these weapons aren't real weapons from statues. These are just weapons that increase your stats such as crit chance. As for your active items, these are going to be potions and any magic abilities you have. There are a few more that can be active, but this is going to be the majority so far. As for your tools, you have 2 slots, a harvesting tool slot and a light tool slot. So this does make gathering resources a little bit tedious. Every time you do want to swap out your tools, you're going to have to clear out your tool slots, and this does remove your light source. So you're going to have to replace it every single time if you do this. On the topic of tedious and annoying, gathering resources is actually pretty annoying. The different minerals in the game take different amounts of time to harvest. However, the entire game runs through interactive buttons. So if you want to interact with an NPC, a mineral, a door, a campfire, you're going to have to press one of these two buttons, the button E or F on your keyboard, and hold it down for a few seconds. Now in the beginning this doesn't sound too bad, but it does get pretty annoying when you have to do this constantly for the different interactions. It gets really noticeable. However, that's honestly not too bad. Additionally, what is noticeable is the progression and the difficulty spike. Once you do have one of the key items to progress further, the enemies in the 20s and above do get really noticeable in difficulty. The purple slime and the kitsune are very noticeable in how quickly and how easily they consume the entire floor of the arena. So I highly recommend spending some time leveling and getting resources to get better equipment. On the topic of leveling, if you do want to raise your stats, you, the player, have stat points. Every time you level up, you get a few stat points and you can put these into your own specific stats. While we're back on the topic of levels, there is one more thing connected to your level, and that's going to be access to other features. Most notably in this game, there are guilds. However, to join a guild, you need to be level 10. So far, I've only managed to find one, as it's pretty close to the starting region. However, there's some other issues that arise with this. Lack of info is something that the game is filled with. I mentioned it earlier, but the different weapons have different orbs that can spawn during combat. However, it's really hard to identify what these orbs do. Some of them are obvious because they tell you, such as defense decrease for the enemy and basic damage dealing attacks. In addition to the lack of info, the guild has no info as to what it does currently in the game. However, the game is still in development, and I guess this is one of the many bugs and issues that we're just gonna have to deal with until the full release. So if you are gonna try the game, just be aware that you might not get as much information as you hope when starting the game. As of currently, the guild, when you join, doesn't actually do anything much. I'm not too sure if you get some passive increases, but there's nothing such as quests that you would kind of assume would appear when joining a guild. But other than that, the entire world is actually pretty huge, and there's quite a few regions already that you can travel to and explore. Honestly, one of the fun parts is exploring and finding the different enemies and resources that you can acquire through chests. There are a few secrets here and there, and a few pathways going to different regions, most notably in the first area, such as a floating ship near the spawn point and a few doors that require keys. One of my recommendations if you do try out this game is to definitely get some awareness of where everything is and try to plan out what you are going to focus on and progress with. One of the cool things with this game is its feature to pin crafting recipes. If you do go to one of the campfires, you're going to be able to craft at it, but you can pin the recipe to your UI screen so you have it with you at all times. This is really convenient because you can manage what you have and what you don't have, and then once you're ready with all of the materials, you can go back and craft it. Other than that, that's pretty much it for my experience. The game's pretty fun. I would give it a go, and the combat is really interesting. I'm probably gonna check out this game some more, and if you want to, the link is down below in the description. And that is all from me. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you found a new, fun, and interesting game to play, and I will see ya.